After a small red arrow in game week 27, I'm still at 56k overall. I've got 2 free transfers in hand, and with Bournemouth and Luton both having a double game week, they could come in handy. Here is my team selection ahead of game week 28. Starting off then, I'll talk about the goalkeeper and defenders. I've got Martinez in goal currently, who could be making way for someone else this week, although he's starting at the moment because he's got better expected points than Dubravka. Gabriel and Saliba in a nice Arsenal defensive double up. I've been really pleased with my transfers in for both of these players. Saliba's going up and up and up in price, and I got him for, I can't remember, 5.2, 5.3 I think I bought him for, which is, yeah, I've made some nice money on him. But ultimately, you know, they're in there because Arsenal are the best defence in the league at the moment and really dangerous from set pieces. So not only are they likely to score me points for clean sheets, but also could potentially get attacking returns through set pieces. Now, they obviously blank in game week 29, but I am planning to play my free hit there, so I'm not really worried about that. Udogie is my third defender. Now, I'm not unhappy with him. I just don't know if he's able to keep a clean sheet against Aston Villa. I'm highly doubtful of that. You know, realistically with Udogie, I'm probably hoping for attacking returns and probably attacking returns alone there. So maybe not getting rid of Udogie. I think I'm quite happy to stick with him in my team, but potentially getting rid of either Botman or Taylor, who ultimately I don't think I'm going to want to start at all for like the rest of the season, to be honest. So one of those guys could make way for a defender along with Martinez. One of the players I'm looking to bring in is Adam Smith. Now, Senesi, I'll admit, is on paper the best Bournemouth defender, but of course he picked up an injury in game week 27. Looks like he's done his hamstring, which I think leaves him going to be out basically for 3 or 4 weeks, which means he's definitely going to miss game week 28. Adam Smith, I think, is the next best thing when it comes to Bournemouth defenders. I think he offers, of all the ones that are actually fit at the moment, he offers the best combination of expected minutes and attacking returns potential. When you look at the likes of Zabarnyi, etc., the attacking returns are few and far between for those centre-backs. But Adam Smith, I think he's probably the best option to go for. He doesn't have all that many starts. He started 14 games this season, but they've all come since game week 13. From game week 13 onwards, he's been nailed on in that Bournemouth team. So I think he's pretty safe to start both games of the double. The one sort of downside I would have around the Bournemouth defence is they do have a lot of injuries at the moment, right? So whatever backline Bournemouth put out in both fixtures in game week 28, I think it's going to be fairly makeshift, which obviously impacts their clean sheet likelihood. But you know, Sheffield United and Luton both at home in a double game week. I think it's fantastic both defensively and going forwards for Bournemouth. So potentially the Luton one will be harder to keep a clean sheet in, but based on how they've been performing recently, you've got to expect a clean sheet against Sheffield United. And secondly, I think I might bring in Neto, the goalkeeper. He's just kept, obviously, a clean sheet against Burnley. Sheffield United and Luton, as I said, with Smith in game week 28. And I also mentioned a little bit of concern about their ability to keep clean sheets with a makeshift defence and the game against Luton. You know, Luton are not too bad going forwards, right? But Neto has got some really good saves numbers this season. So even if he doesn't keep a clean sheet in any of those games, I still feel confident that he'll come out with hopefully some saves bonus. He's made 3.71 saves per 90 so far this season, which I think is enough to score him saves bonus points alone. So yeah, I really like him as an option. In fact, I think I'd actually prefer Neto in my team than Smith. I think Martinez to Neto is more of a priority transfer to me than Udogie to Smith, but might do both of them. Find out towards the end of the video. On to the midfield then. Saka, Bowen, Palmer and Foden are starting for me currently. Quite happy with those 4, to be honest. One thing I do have, as you can see there on my bench, is an injured Hwang Hee-chan, who I could quite easily take out this week for a doubling midfielder. I'll maybe talk about that in a second. As for the midfielders I've got, Saka, I mean, I'm really happy with him, right? He's probably the best midfielder in the game at the moment, in really good form for Arsenal. It was so unfortunate for Saka captainers in game week 27 that he barely got, well, he got 2 assists, didn't he, against Sheffield United, which is decent, but subbed off at half-time. Arteta said it was down to sickness. I think he'll be fine for Brentford, back in like 100% fitness and ready to go. And Brentford looking pretty leaky defensively, so I do like Saka's chances. I got the vice-captaincy chip on him. You can probably guess already who my captain is, but I think he's the next best thing when it comes to captaincy in game week 28. Bowen, I think I've got to start him against Burnley, right? Burnley looking one of the weaker teams in the league. And Bowen restarted his form off the back of a hat-trick in 26, an assist in 27. Hopefully he can get another return or multiple returns in game week 28 to back that up. I think the coincidence, well, there is no coincidence, I was meant to say, to Paqueta coming back in the team, that really does improve Bowen's output, in my opinion. Even if it's just a psychological thing for Bowen, I can't really tell, but it really does improve his upside. So I'm hoping for some good points from him. Cole Palmer, I can't really justify selling him, particularly as I'm free hitting in 29, right? Fantastic value and a really nice player. The one thing I would say, he does have quite a tough fixture against Newcastle. I think the two teams will go relatively toe-to-toe with one another. And I know he's got 5.9 expected points, but I could foresee that being a relatively Stamford Bridge classic low-scoring game. That's just what I've got in my head. Then Foden, I think Drafttown have been a little bit unkind to him with expected points against Liverpool. Historically, the Liverpool v Man City game is relatively high scoring, right? And I don't think that will change in Game Week 28 this season. You know Foden's going to play. It's probably one of Man City's biggest games this season, right? So he's definitely going to start as one of their best players. And I definitely back him to get a good level of returns. So if you think back to me mentioning I was looking to sell Hwang Hee-chan, my replacement, if I do so, I think is going to be Ross Barkley. In my opinion, he's probably the best midfielder that has two fixtures in Game Week 28. He's definitely this outstanding pick of the Luton midfielders, right? It doesn't impact me, but he doesn't blank in Game Week 29. Just if you were fancy buying him yourself and not free hitting in 29, I think he's a really smart option if you're going to do that. I would definitely admit that Luton are poor defensively, right? Which is why I'm not actually considering bringing in a Luton defender myself. But they aren't having any issues scoring goals. Barkley, he seems to be now to start, plays 90 minutes every game, so I think you can pretty much guarantee he's going to get basically a floor of 4 points. But one thing I would say about him is he's playing a bit deeper in a midfield too. Traditionally, I always thought of Barkley as a number 10, an advanced midfielder that gets assists and goals, and obviously he's still getting assists and goals, but he's playing as part of a bit of a deeper midfield pivot, and he's more of a, I don't know how to describe it, just a more deep playing midfielder basically than you would normally consider him being. However, like I said, I've got a feeling he's the best midfielder with a double still in 28. And like I said, he doesn't blank in 29. So if you're not looking to free hit, I think he's almost a shoe-in, to be honest. But yeah, I think Barkley could well be my transfer in. On to the forwards, and I am admittedly extremely template. Solanke, Haaland and Watkins up top. I'm really happy with the three of them, although I could potentially make a transfer here. Solanke is my captain. Am I a little bit worried about triple captainers? Yes, I triple captained Erling Haaland back in Game Week 25, and that didn't turn out amazingly for me. And Solanke, with the two fixtures that he's got, I think I'll be hard-pressed to come out with Haaland outscoring Solanke over their respective triple captaincies, right? I think Solanke is going to do quite well. So I'm a little bit worried about that. Haaland, question marks as to whether he should stay in my team. Now, I know historically the Man City-Liverpool game is relatively high-scoring, but it could be a tight affair, right? That could well happen. Some Premier League big games do end 0-0, 1-1. That's the kind of scoreline. He doesn't play in 29, and then he's got Arsenal in Game Week 30. So over the next 3 weeks, for example, the likes of maybe Morris has 3 fixtures to Haaland's 1. And afterwards, Haaland's got Arsenal. So potentially there's a transfer there. I'll talk about that a bit more in a second. And then Watkins, absolutely no justification to sell Ollie Watkins. He's up to 9 million now. I've had him since Game Week 1 at 8 million. So yeah, really happy to keep being hold of Watkins. Yeah, that's my forward line. I'll talk about my transfer in a sec. Now, I'll admit, as I'm free hitting in Game Week 29, I think this transfer is a little bit less attractive to me. But if you aren't looking to free hit, I think Morris, selling Haaland to Morris isn't the worst idea in the world, particularly when you consider that Haaland has 1 fixture compared to Morris's 3 over the next 2 game weeks. And Morris, he's nailed to start for Luton, plays 90 minutes, takes penalties, which means in every game he plays, he's always got a chance for goal because all they need to do is win a penalty. And one thing I have seen with Morris, regardless of the opposition he's facing in the Prem this season, he always seems to give defenders a real handful. And he's cheap enough when you don't want to start him, like Game Week 30 and 31 against Spurs and Arsenal. At 5.1 million, just stick him on your bench, right? He's got a really decent level of returns for the number of starts that he's made. I really like him as an option, particularly if you're not free hitting in Game Week 29. Now, here is my team going into Game Week 28 as it stands. And I must say, I'm not 100% committed to these transfers. I think Martinez to Neto, I'm pretty much 99% sure it's going to happen. But for my midfield, going Hwang to Barkley compared to maybe going Botman to Smith, I'm kind of 50-50 on it at the moment. Personally, with this team, I'm going for Barkley for Hwang. I think I just about prefer selling the injured player in my team. That's really my only justification to it. But given that I don't think Udogie is going to keep a clean sheet, and obviously as a defender, his likelihood of an attacking return is probably less than 30%, right? I could well go for Adam Smith instead of Udogie. Those are the kind of two transfers that I'm considering. At the moment, if I bring Barkley in, that obviously uses my 2 free transfers. I've got 4.9 million in the bank and 76.6 expected points. I mean, I'll just talk about the team as a whole, right? With Neto, I'm hoping probably for a 1 clean sheet across the 2 games, and then hopefully some saves bonus from both of the games to accompany that. So might even get into double digits with his points. Obviously, Gabriel and Saliba carry some real attacking upside, as well as playing for the best defence in the league. I think Brentford is one of the teams I could see Arsenal keeping a clean sheet against. Like I said, Udogie could make way for Adam Smith. Find out in the deadline stream if I go ahead with that or do Hwang to Barkley. Saka, Bowen, I've gone for Barkley, as I said, and Foden in midfield. I'm really happy with that 4. And I'm actually a little bit nervous about benching Cole Palmer, which is another reason why I think I might bring in Adam Smith. Benching Cole Palmer against Newcastle feels a bit wrong to me. Like I said, I know I have a feeling that it's going to be a low-scoring game. I say that with like emphasis. But ultimately, Newcastle are still one of the worst teams in the league for expected goals conceded, right? And we all know how good Cole Palmer is. And he takes the penalties, right? That's all he needs is a penalty to score, which obviously Barkley doesn't do. So, yeah, benching Palmer for Barkley feels a little bit risky. Foden, like I said, I'm really happy to have him against Liverpool, hoping he can do the business. Likewise, Bowen and Saka. Solanke, like I said, a little bit nervous about not having the triple captainship to use on him. But to be honest, I'm quite happy to just captain him this week. Haaland, hopefully he can do the business against Liverpool. I have a feeling that quite a lot of players around my rank might be selling him this week for Morris. Like I said, I think that's a fairly sensible move, particularly if you're not free hitting in Game Week 29, right? Because you get 3 fixtures to 1 if you go for Morris. So I'm hoping that Haaland does really well. And then Watkins, I mean, he's been a fantastic asset for me, and I'm sure he'll do great against Tottenham. Tottenham, like I said, when going through Udogie, I don't think are all that amazing defensively. I benched Dubravka. I think that makes sense, right? Palmer, like I said, I'm nervous about, and Taylor and Botman, I'm not worried about them. They can just stay on the bench. All right, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful, just getting a bit of an insight into the way I'm thinking of dealing with my team this week. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments which you think I should do with my transfers. I've got a couple of options, basically. Do I do Hwang to Barkley or Botman to Smith? Those are my 2 options, I think, for transfers this week. So, yeah, let me know in the comments what you think there. And also, let me know what you're planning to do with your own team. And if you enjoyed the video and want to see more from me, the Golden Goal channel, you can subscribe to it just there. I should be just wiggling my finger at it there. And I'll catch you in my next video.